2, which one did you think she had? Yeah, Meniere's, you could say for anyways. So let's go through why that's the best choice. So if you read, that disease is fluid buildup in the vestibule and the cochlea. So if I increase fluid, I'm going to bend the hairs more. So therefore, I'm going to have more sensation of motion or movement. And my cochlea does what again? Hearing. So if I start bending the hairs in my cochlea, I'm going to get more sounds in my hearing. I'm going to get buzzing and balance. BPV does otoliths, float around, but does nothing with the cochlea. It doesn't say anything about the hearing part. Plus, if you look at the symptoms, BPV is anytime she changes position. Look at her case. What did it say? She got frequent dizziness without warning. It didn't say anything about changing position. It sounds like all the time. So it sounds like Meniere's. It is Meniere's. My brother-in-law has that. Right. So it makes sense on how we got there. So it's affecting the hearing and the balance part. Right. So Dr. Mann says, okay, let's reduce her salt and give her a diuretic. Okay, let's go through it. Salt intake. What does salt have to do with anything?
Contains water.
Contains water. Remember osmosis, biology 112. So if I reduce salt, I reduce water. So I'm going to reduce her fluid. And tell me why you assign diuretics to your patients to do what? To pee all the time. So therefore you're going to reduce fluid. So he's thinking it's because of fluid. So he's proving it's Meniere's. Right? Because there's reduction of fluid. Is thinking of a way to get around it.
This one's just.
So if I dehydrate you enough, you'll lose fluid from all your body parts, including your ears. So why are they effective? Because of biology 112. Let's go down to number 5. They're going to do a surgery on a cranial nerve. What cranial nerve relates to balance and hearing? Vestibulocochlear. Number what? Number 8. Good. Very good. But now, why would that help reduce the symptoms? Well, let's figure out this question here to figure that out. The vestibulocochlear is in 2 halves. There's a vestibulo half, or branch, and a cochlear branch. That's why I wrote it the first week in 2 parts. So to prove I'm not making that up, I'm going to show you a picture of the vestibulocochlear nerve, showing the 2 branches, basically, which is right about here. Look at this picture. There's the vestibulocochlear nerve. It's one nerve, it's number 8. But there are 2 parts to it. The snail gets a part, cochlear branch. The vestibule, the balance part, gets a part, vestibulo. Right? If you remember on some of the models, number 8 and the brain was split. That's because of this. These come out as 2 separate nerves, but they're one name. So there's a cochlear branch and a vestibular branch. So what branch would you want to cut to turn off the dizziness? The vestibular branch, because then her brain doesn't know the fluid has moved. Therefore, you wouldn't feel dizzy because the brain didn't know you did anything. So they're going to cut the vestibular branch of the vestibulocochlear nerve. Make sense?
Won't you lose some balance then?
You would. That's the price of not being dizzy. So yes, she would stop being dizzy and also stop feeling any balance from that ear or the ears. So you're trading on. Right? Yes?
That wouldn't solve the buzzing, would it?
It would not solve the buzzing, but it solved the dizzy. Let's say the doctor screws up and cuts the cochlear branch instead. What do we call that?
Deaf.
Deaf. You're now deaf. It's called lawsuit, right? You're now deaf, and now you're dizzy. So I solved the buzzing, but now you're still dizzy, right? Because now your cochlea can't send information to the brain, so your brain doesn't know you're hearing anything. Right? So you don't want to cut the cochlear, otherwise you just deafen the patient, and they're still dizzy. So you want to make them less dizzy, but still buzz. Get the feeling? Right. So while we're talking about dizzy and all that, let's add our last thing to talk about, which is vertigo, which is what this poor girl is getting. All right. So vertigo, your brain can't decide what's true about your balance. Right? Another way the formal way is there's an incongruity in your balance field. So what that means is your brain can't figure out where up and down are, and so its response is to make you feel sick. So how do I know I'm not falling down? What is my brain going to look at to figure out that I'm not falling down right now? What sense am I to use? Vision. So one of the first things you're going to do is use your vision. So what are my eyes telling my brain about my balance right now? The room, right? I see the horizon, I see your faces, you're not turning upside down, so I must be where I'm supposed to be. So the brain is registering my vision. Then it says I'm going to check your semicircular canals. What do my semicircular canals tell my brain? What do they detect? That my head's moving, right? So, gee, they're not moving, so you must be holding still. So you look flat, these aren't moving. We're going to check the rocks. So we're going to check the vestibule. The rocks are still saying that's down, so we're good. Last thing I'm going to check is your muscles and joints. Are my legs moving? Are my arms moving? No. In 231, you may remember the word proprioception. That's what they meant. So when I'm standing here, my brain is checking my eyes, my ears, my joints, and verifying that nothing should be changing. So obviously I'm not falling out, right? But now I'm going to put you in the back of a van reading a book to the beach, right? Or a school bus, right? I was always the kid in the back of the school bus on a windy road. Okay, so I'm reading a book in a school bus. What do my eyes see?
Your book.
The book. Is the book moving?
No.
That was a rule. So to your eyes, your brain thinks you're not moving. What are the ears doing in the windy road to Seaside?
Moving.
The fluid's going all over, so your ears are sending impulses that you're out of balance, right? And you're sitting in a chair, so these aren't doing anything. So what does your brain think? If the book's not moving, but the ears are, it can't decide, so it makes you sick. That's car sickness. The brain can't figure it out, so it makes you get sick enough to stop moving, it thinks, and register the pain. Make sense? So tell me why you never get sick driving the car.
Because you're driving.
You're watching.
Seeing the road.
I see the road, I feel the road, I am the road, right? I turn the wheel when I'm feeling the curve, right? Everything matches to a brain. So sitting in the front seat gets you less vertigo because you see the road as you feel it. The back seat, you're not seeing anything, so your brain has a harder time and you get sicker. Right? Yes?
What about people who only get car sick when they get drunk?
That's different. That's the cerebellum having problems.
Oh.
Alcohol affects the cerebellum preferentially, which is why you can't pass the sobriety test, because you don't know where your muscles and joints are. So the brain loses this. The fluid here changes density, and therefore the brain is having a much harder time figuring out where you are.
But stick their arm out the window and they're fine.
It's a weird thing.
Okay.
Someone asked me earlier about that drunk thing where you put your foot on the floor. I have no idea.
What?
I don't know. Ever heard that one? Somebody asked me that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm a friend. So doing okay. So when you're on the plane getting turbulence, why does turbulence make you sick on a plane?
Because you can't see.
You don't really see much movement.
Right, you see the plane, but the rocks are moving up and down with the turbulence, so your brain thinks gravity's flipping over, so the brain doesn't understand why nothing else is moving, so let's just throw up and get it over with, right? But motion sickness is when the brain can't figure out which sense to believe is true, so it believes none of them. That's the way the brain responds.
With the seasickness, you can still see.
Right, so seasickness is you're watching, like the horizon isn't moving, but the ship is in your ear, so your brain can't figure out why one thing is moving and the other thing isn't.
So basically it's when something is stable but other things aren't,
Right.
rather than all of it
Yeah.
being unstable
Right.
or all of it stable.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, the brain can't figure out which of these should I be believing, so I'm not going to believe any of them. So you can sit in the car and look out the side window, you'll get sick. Because that image is different than what I'm feeling this way with the car.
So how come some people don't get that? Like I can read in the car and not get.
Magic. You get more motion sick as you get older. So kids, you can spin all day long, they think it's great. I'll just get dizzy looking at a merry-go-round. That's what's so sad. Some people just have a higher, their brain can tolerate the indecision better than other people. So my sister looks at a car, she'll just get sick. And she can only drive the car. She can't be a passenger.
Wow.
Right? I'm fine driving a car, just don't put me in a merry-go-round. Yeah, it's sad, right? That's just the way it is. And some people, you can spin them all day long and they're happy.
Their eyes start back and forth
Yeah.
as they stop.
Make sense? So the brain is trying to calculate all this information to figure out where you are. And sometimes, yes.
What would explain the opposite? As a kid, I got car sick every time I was in the car, but then as I got older, it went away.
That's unusual because most people's reverse. So I can't explain that other than just brain.
All right.
Yeah.
So what happens when you're like on a merry-go-round? You know how like you're inside and you feel it, but then you like lean out. It feels way more powerful when you get sick faster.
Because of the centrifugal force. So as you go out of a circular structure, the rocks are under more pressure.
Oh.
Right? So physics. So therefore, they're going to push harder in the.
Okay, not exactly related to this, but what about tone deafness? Like people that can hear like musical tones?
That's in the brain, not the ear. So the ear is fine, but the brain can't discern which frequency it's getting very well. So that's why there's some studies out there like autistic children are really good at tones. So their brain is better at picking out those tones than the average person. Something with the brain wire, not the ear. Yes.
What about those figure skaters that go round and round and round really
Practice
fast?
does wonders.
Really? That's it?
Plus it's self-selected, right? If you threw up when you did that, you wouldn't go in ice skating.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a self-selection. Only people that can tolerate the spinning go into those fields, and they just practice and the brain ignores it. If I swim me in ice, it'd be the last thing I'd ever do. Just feed me up the floor. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about the chemoreceptors. They're pretty basic stuff. So what we're going to do instead is talk about the exam coming up next week. So let's talk about your test. It's in my sweaty little hand. So it's just